Hey guys, it's awkward voiceover time. I am doing kind of a different video for me today where I am going to just walk you guys through me sewing a pad together. This is not a tutorial. I don't consider myself to be a strong enough sewer to actually film a tutorial, but when I was doing my Q&A giveaway question thing, a lot of people were asking me about doing a tutorial or how I sew my pads. So I figured instead of just answering the questions by words that I would answer those questions by actually just showing you guys what I do. So like I said, it's not a tutorial, it's more just watching and seeing the process. All said and done, it took me probably about a half an hour to sew this pad together. I am speeding the process up quite a bit. But you just get to see me, right here I'm sewing my core together. This particular pad has 4 layers of cotton flannel as the core, and I am putting together an asymmetrical pad. So as you're watching this, you're probably going to notice that one side of my pad is longer and slightly wider than the other, and that is by design. I actually developed this pattern myself just because I don't see a whole lot of popular shops offering asymmetrical pads, and I need something with more coverage to the front. So that's why I kind of came up with this pattern, and one of the reasons why I started sewing pads myself to begin with. Right now I'm just going to neaten up the core. Flannel definitely has a little bit of a stretch to it, so when you're sewing together multiple layers like this, things tend to move around just a tiny bit, so this is just me being a neat freak and wanting everything to look tidy. And then I am going to go about the process of attaching my core to my topper. The topper here is also a flannel material. I actually had a pad in this same print by Beach Bottom back when I first started my cloth stash, but the Beach Bottom pad was only 6 inches long, and I can't go anything shorter than a 9-inch pad. So I wanted to make a pad in that same topper because I loved it so much. So I got this topper specifically to essentially repeat myself and have that same pad again, just in a length that would work for me. I actually ended up giving that Beach Bottom pad to a Pay It Forward so that somebody else could enjoy it, because Beach Bottom is such an amazing shop. Okay, so back to the sewing. Right now I am doing a stitch down the center of the topper. This is something that I'm kind of experimenting with. I'm not sure if I'll keep doing this for very long, but I have a couple of pads that have a stitch down the middle, and I haven't noticed the functionality being any different with them, but I just wanted to sew with them a few times just to see if I liked it. Because using flannel as I do for my core materials, my pads can get pretty plush just because cotton flannel is not the thinnest of core options. So I figured that maybe trying this stitch down the middle could help to make my pads stay a little bit thinner, and they do actually feel a little bit thinner this way, so we'll see how it goes. I'll let you know. Okay, so right now I am going to sew completely around the core. This is essentially the same thing that I was doing when I put the core together, only this is slightly closer to the edge of the core to attach it more firmly to the topper. I wouldn't want to leave it with just that center stitch, just because I want to make sure that I don't have any bunching or rolling of fabric underneath the topper after I've sewn the whole thing together. It's actually pretty fun to watch yourself sew. This is actually pretty neat. So this is hopefully fun for you guys, but it's definitely fun for me. Okay, so once you finish up with that stitch around the topper, you're just going to trim your threads. And I always say that the hard part is done at this point because I'm always nervous that my core is going to be off center or funky. So once I'm dealing with the backer, I feel like the bulk of the work is done. The backer on this one is a pale yellow anti-pill fleece, and I am turning and top stitching this pad, so I'm essentially going to be sewing it together inside out right now. I'm going to pin this together. I probably use more pins than I really need to, but I have always had trouble with flannel toppers stretching and shifting as I sew. So I try to use as many, pins as I feel is necessary just to make myself feel comfortable, because typically by this point in the sewing process, I've gotten impatient and I want to be done with this silly thing. So that was me just showing you where my turn space is going to be. When you are turning and top stitching a pad, you are sewing it together inside out and then turning it right side out. So you have to leave a hole essentially in the pad during this step of the process. So I am going to essentially sew all the way around, but stop about 1.5 inches before I meet with the other end of my stitch, so that I can use that 1.5 inches to turn this right side out. My pattern here is pretty angular. I don't have any rounded edges. If you were to be sewing a pattern that has curves, then you would just want to make sure that your turn space, which is that hole that you leave, is on a straighter edge, because turning on a curve is pretty difficult. Okay, so now that that stitch is done, it's time to clip the corners, and this is essentially just to make the pad neater once you turn it right side out, because obviously having excess fabric in the corners is going to make them puffy and bunchy and weird. And then you do the same in your inverted corners as well, which is what I'm doing right here. I actually hate this step in the process. I don't know why, but this is my least favorite part. More so than cutting my patterns is doing this little clipping thing. I think it's because I've forgotten to do it enough, and I've had to turn a pad inside out again because I've skipped this step on accident before. Okay, so now the fun part, seeing what the pad actually looks like. So I am just turning this guy inside out. Sometimes this process can take a while if your turn space isn't big enough, because you're kind of trying to walk the balance between having a turn space that's big enough and having a turn space that's small enough. If that makes sense, you'll see what I mean here in a minute. And then I'm just using my fabric pencil to poke out all of my corners and my edges to make sure that the pad has the right shape. Some people have like a gigantic chopstick, other people have an awl, an AUL, which is the actual tool that you're supposed to use. A pencil works just fine for me. As long as you're careful and you don't poke a hole through the fabric, you're good. So that's my turn space. That's where the hole now exists in my pad that I used to turn it right side out. I am going to pin this guy closed, and then I'm going to top stitch. So this pad is actually almost done. This pin just helps to keep everything in place before you get that turn space sewn together. Awkward pause. All right, there we go. Now I'm going to be doing my top stitch. So I am going to get my turn space out of the way right now here at the beginning. I like to get this closed up early just because I'm always nervous that I'm going to ruin my turn space. And then here, I've always been like a little bit nervous talking about how I get my corners done, because I don't have a walking foot, which is an extra attachment you can get to help you sew multiple layers of fabric together. I actually have to lift my presser foot for every single stitch for about the first 5 stitches on every single corner during my top stitch. It drives me crazy, but I am so cheap and I don't want to spend $30 on a walking foot when my machine only costs me $60. It just feels silly. So I'll probably break down and buy a walking foot at some point, but for right now, you sewing purists are probably cringing watching me do these corners, but it works, so, don't knock it till you try it. Almost done. I just am making my way around the last couple of corners, and then my top stitch will be finished, and we'll just need to worry about the snap closure to attach this to the undies during use. I think this one actually came out quite cute. I think it's pretty adorable. I love it. Alright, so now the snaps. Snaps are super easy, and I don't know why I thought they were so much more complicated before I actually started making pads myself, but you're essentially just poking a hole with a sharp stick through the fabric so that, it doesn't rip. And then you just put a little snap on either side. You just mush the snap together so that it doesn't come apart. I use cam snaps. I finally have ventured beyond just having white cam snaps, so I have black, gray, and tan now. Obviously not very adventurous. But I just chose white because I felt like it went well with this particular topper for this pad. And then I always do 2 snap settings because I wear brief style or bikini style underwear, and I also wear boy shorts. So depending on which style underwear I'm wearing, I might need to use either or. But there we go. There's the pad, and thank you guys so much for watching.